It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for me. Zohran Mamdani is mayor of New York City. Welcome to the Bituation Room on a special Thursday, November 6th, a couple days after such a historic night. A blue wave, a blue, maybe an even maybe a different red wave in a different sense. The commies are coming. The commies are coming. I am feeling a feeling that it doesn't feel weird to me, but it's definitely making me ugly cry. Uh, and that is a feeling of hope. You guys, I have been at various moments of the last 48 hours struggling with tears of hope. Um, and, I had some of those back in 2008. However, Barack Obama, very much a few degrees to the center for my taste. This is not that. This is not that. This is even deeper. This is even a needier. This is an even more primal feeling of hope, a more primal need. Yes, we're going to talk about the elections on Tuesday. I am so lucky to be joined in a little bit by the national director of the Working Families Party, Maurice Mitchell. He's been on the show before. I think we talked to him in dark times. We talked to him in good times. So I am so excited to hear about what WFP has done, not just in this New York City mayoral election, because it could have gone down a few different ways, but also their plans for the future and how Maurice is looking at this moment. So thank you so much for being here, for listening as a podcast, for supporting this show just generally. We need these communities and these spaces more than ever. We need alternative media. Oh my God, did anyone else have to smoke hours of CNN election night or MSNBC, which is, again, a touch better, maybe? Support this show, Bituation Room. Patreon.com/Bituation Room for a bunch of perks, including access to my Ask Me Anything tomorrow. We're going to do that at 1 p.m. Already got some great questions, so make sure to send them in. You can send them in also if you are a member on YouTube, if you are a patron. And if you are on Patreon, I encourage you to up your pledge and or become a paying member. There's a lot of you there, and I super appreciate your presence there. If you want to make it $2 a month, I get it. That totally helps me and my very small team do this work week in and week out, and especially with the deep dives. Oh boy, have I got a doozy of a deep dive for you guys for next week. I cannot write this fast enough, but I've been very distracted by, hope once again. Going to talk about the right and Israel. Oh, yeah, we're doing it. We're finally doing it. We're going to talk about the big civil war that is happening in the right. And if you haven't been paying attention, don't worry. I'm going to break it down for you next week. So thank you for your support. Thank you for being a listener. Give this podcast 5 stars if you are. Also, you can catch me live doing stand-up comedy in Pasadena, December 13th. That is a Saturday. Adam Conover is going to be on the show, as well as a bunch of awesome comics who you may or may not have seen on this show here. So get tickets for that. Should be in the description below. And before I bring Maurice in, I wanted to let you guys know that right now I am hungry. And I know I should have eaten. I shouldn't just eat a little Baby Bell cheese, but that's what I did. And I've got one spare in case I need to nosh on it. What I really wish I had was something I could microwave that was also yummy and not frozen. And that would be a Factor meal. I kind of wish I had a Factor meal. One of our sponsors for today's show, there's so much variety. There's so many different weekly meal options that also can are compatible with all of your dietary restrictions. If you are vegetarian, if you're looking at more wellness goals, protein, all that stuff. So more choices, better nutrition. 97% of customers say Factor help them live a healthier life. That's true. You're not loading up with carbs. Like when I make a meal, I'm like, I'm gonna need all these potatoes. But Factor, you're like, okay, we got our protein, we got our veggie, we're doing good. So you should eat smart at factormeals.com/bituation. 50 off. That's Coupon code Habituation50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for a year. And again, that's while your subscription is active. But if you haven't tried it, try it. Try it. Let me know, because the flavors, the food, surprisingly good. Delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Thank you, Factor, for being a sponsor of the Habituation Room and keeping us fed. And also nothing. Also, let's talk about it. I need to talk about this. We're going to talk about it with, again, the National Director of Working Families Party. Please welcome Maurice Mitchell.
Hey.
How are you?
How am I? So do you want the answer? The real deal answer? Can we go there?
Real deal answer. How are you 2 days after this election?
Okay. Let's go back in a little time machine. Let's go back in a little 84 DeLorean and like go back to like November of last year, right? And I have to tell you, like I've been organizing most of my life. I've been committed to trying to make the world a little bit better. When I read Project 2025, I believed it. I believed every single word of it. I took them seriously. I took them literally. And that's why I was organizing like a madman, to be like, let's do everything we could do to stop this guy, to stop MAGA, because what they have cooked up is unconscionable, right?
Yeah.
And then November happened and we lost. And I dealt with it. I ate more than I should have ate. It was hard to get me out of my covers. I was in some sort of depression around this.
Oh yeah.
And I was like struggling like existentially, like what is my job here? What are we even doing here?
Yes.
Like for real. And I can't even remember when I felt that where I couldn't even really grasp hope the way that, like, it's my job to inspire people, right? It's my job to help people understand the path to victory. And I was struggling to see it. And, you know, I have a 9-year-old and he lives part of the time abroad. And I was like happy that he didn't have to stay in this country.
Yeah.
That's deep because one of the main sort of sources of pain and struggle I have is how far away he is from me. And I was like, well, he's far away, but at least he's not here. And fast forward to Tuesday and the feelings of hope that you talked about. Like I was at Zohran's victory party, and as far as the eye could see, I could see people of every race, people of all ages. I listened to his speech, which was not just a story of him, a story of all of us. And, you know, I'm involved in politics. And so a lot of times I could be jaded. It's like, okay, there's a politician speaking.
Yep.
And I actually allowed myself to get lost in that speech and lost in the moment and feel like I was part of a bigger we. And it struck me that we're winning, that we're actually winning, that our ideas, and when I say us, I'm definitely not talking about the Democratic Party, right? I'm talking about the people, right? Like the people, like everyday working class people. And I felt that sense of purpose. It was clear to me, right? Like, all right, like, why do I get up every day and try to build a working families party? It's for this. Like, this is what it's for. You know, the people who 26, 27, 28 years ago built the Working Families Party, the reason they did it in 1998 was because the Democratic Party had made a decision to get in bed with Wall Street, to pass the 94 crime bill, to double down on NAFTA, to pass quote unquote welfare reform. At that time, there were people in labor organizations, there were activists or others that said, you are committing a crime against working people. You are betraying working people. You will lose working people. And they were like, where are they going to go? They're not going to go to the country club Republicans. They took working people for granted.
Yep.
And working people left them. Some folks left politics in general because they saw, like today, people see, okay, the Republican Party, they're crazy, they're authoritarians, and they're led by one master, this madman, oligarch, wannabe king. But the Democratic Party, they serve two masters. They serve their oligarchs, and sometimes they talk to the people. And it's like, all right, the Republicans, sure, they're crazy, but the Democrats, they're weak. And people see those two choices, and it leads to cynicism, or at least if I have to choose between crazy and strong and weak and non-committal, at least I'll go with the strong people. And then I think that's why we saw a lot of our folks, choose to pull the lever for Donald Trump, because it was kind of like a vibes intuition for some people that deeply wanted an end to the status quo.
Yep.
And on Tuesday, people were able to pull the lever for a third choice. Actually, for the voters in New York, more people voted on the Working Families Party line for mayor than ever in history.
Yes, that's amazing. Which, by the way, the right was freaking out because it was like, Zohran's twice on the ballot. It's like, yeah, because there's the Working Families Party on the ballot, and Zohran.
Elon Musk was wilding.
Yeah, they were freaking out. But and I also, I've been playing this out in my mind about if Cuomo had, let's say, narrowly clinched the Democratic nomination, would Zohran have chosen, along with WFP, to run, continue the momentum and run on the WFP line? And you could tell me better. I feel like the answer is yes, and I feel like the answer is he might have actually won then too. What do you say?
There is in the multiverse an alternate multiverse where we're celebrating a clear Working Families Party victory against the Democrats and Republicans in New York City. But we'll never know. But in some universe, that's happening right now. That version of me and that version of you are on this having that conversation. But there were some folks in New York that ran against the Democrat and won. So that's also a really exciting development, that there in Connecticut and in New York, there's a number of candidates that ran only as Working Families Party people, and they actually defeated their Democratic Party opponents. So like in Bridgeport, Connecticut, the Board of Election, we have two Working Families Party only people that won.
That's great.
There's a city councilor in Newburgh. Her name is Tamika Stewart. She is a Working Families Party only person that defeated her Democratic Party opponent. In Onondaga County, they flipped Onondaga County from red to blue. And then there's also going to be a sitting independent Working Families Party legislator. Her name is Nicole Watts in Onondaga County. That's the county that Syracuse is in. And then also, I should say, on top of Zohran's victory, which is like just amazing, and nobody could take my joy from that victory, right? But we also won in New York. We won every major city in New York. We have a Working Families Party mayor-elect. So in Albany, in Syracuse, and in Buffalo, and they're going to be working with Zohran to make sure that they get revenue from the state, because Zohran's policy platform, free buses, childcare, that's going to require Kathy Hochul, who is no socialist comrade, right, to work in the legislature to pass some legislation to tax these billionaires and corporations. And, he's not going to be alone. He's going to have these Working Families Party mayors in these other cities to roll with him.
I did not know that. That's so huge.
Yeah, it's going to be critical. So the mayor of Syracuse, the mayor of Albany, the mayor of Buffalo, and the mayor of New York, as well as like the colleagues that he left in the legislature, because he was a sitting assembly person, he's going to be working with them in order to pass that legislation so that we can have, the fast and free buses, the childcare. What's great is that, he could enact a rent freeze on his own. So that's something that that surely is going to come. But this is
There's
exciting.
so much to get into, and I want to do that, and I also want to talk about the other wins across the country.
Yes.
But let's stick on Zohran quickly
Okay.
and the, specifically the speech, the victory speech that night, which again, I will play these clips and attempt to not cry. He did everything but back down, temper his, his vision. He did everything but try to appease the billionaires that pulled out all the stops to defeat him, that used Islamophobic, disgusting, hateful imagery, language to take him down. No, he spoke to the people who elected him, and he spoke on this message of hope. And so this was one of my favorite moments from that speech.
Hope over tyranny. Hope over big money and small ideas. Hope over despair. We won because New Yorkers allowed themselves to hope that the impossible could be made possible. And we won because we insisted that no longer would politics be something that is done to us. Now it is something that we do.
That to me was
that was a bar.
Bars. I mean, the whole speech had bars.
Oh.
The second line was, quoting Eugene Debs saying, "I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity." Like, I couldn't even hear it in the moment because I was screaming at the Eugene Debs part. But that, like, politics is no longer done to us. How many of us feel this way, that politicians and politics are literally something that just is imposed upon us, and not something that we actively participate in? And I think, even Cuomo was like, "Congratulations for, exciting young people." Like, people had to tip their hats to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Van Jones wasn't excited about.
Oh, poor BB.
Yeah. So, there's folks that are still trying to cope based on that speech. But what I could say is I was in that audience, and I mean, it was beautiful. After those bars, I was looking at people because we were recognizing that we were witnessing history, and it's like bar after bar after bar. I was like, did you just hear what? It was so incredible. And it was for everything that some of his detractors have said about the speech was the reason why he understood the assignment of that speech, right?
Yes.
To show up in his most dignified pose and to offer the boldest expression of our politics, and to do it with no apology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to be his full self, his full immigrant, Muslim, democratic socialist, pro-Palestine, pro-human rights self, in a way that allows everybody else to be their full self. So it didn't feel like he was just speaking for him. It felt like he was speaking for us. And there was a line in it. I don't know if you got this line, but there was a line where he said, to get to any of us, you have to come for all of us.
Ooh, what a line! I don't have it.
Bars. And the idea of politics.
And I was waiting for him to say, "You got to come through me," right? Because
that's
right. Because that's what tough guy politicians say. Like, oh, we heard Pritzker say that, and it's like, you want to come to my people, you come through me. You hear Jeffries say that. He takes everything as a personal offense, and like, I'm not knocking Pritzker, I am knocking Jeffries, but like, I was waiting for him to say, "You got to come through me," which we would have cheered at anyway. But the fact that he said, "You come through all of us,"
yes, no notes on that. Totally, like, adding a level of like depth to that sort of machismo, you got to come through me. It's like, yeah, you have to come through me because I'm included in all of us. Right?
Yes.
And expanding that. And then
he might as well have said an injury to one is an injury to all. That's what that was.
Yes. And then the idea of politics and what are politics for, right? And politics at their best feels like what it felt like on Tuesday to listen to his speech. Politics at their best feel like a spiritual occasion where you feel bigger and more powerful than you may normally feel as an individual trying to get by in this crazy society. And you feel like you're part of a calling. And it's funny because like when you talk to, or when you try to understand the emotions behind the MAGA phenomenon, that's what Trump offers some of his people.
Yes.
Because all of us as working people are struggling with the indignity of life under capitalism and trying to get by and trying to figure things out and feeling like something is constantly being robbed from you, your dignity, your wages, your pride, and seeking something more, and seeking to be about something more than just like, affording to get to the end of the week. And politics at their best provide that. And that's what we feel. That's what we're still feeling today, and the reason why I've done a number of things. I've been organizing since I was a young person. In fact, we first met each other when in New York, when
My God,
so
many
back
years
in the
ago.
day, decades ago, grassroots organizing and whatever.
But I finished that, but I also want to say that Zohran actually comes from the generation, although he's younger than us, the generation and that moment in the post 9/11 era
Yes.
Of organizing, where we were dealing with not just neoliberal capitalism and then the global justice movement being sort of, supplanted by the war on terror and having to react to that, the anti-war movement, and then, reacting and defending Muslim communities and in New York. But like he was involved in a childcare collective organization that my good friend started to support grassroots organizations throughout New York City. And he was like a teen, like volunteering. I mean, he really is us. And I'm just like, I can't take credit. Maybe you can more, but I'm just like, there is something so familiar and so incredible about this person because he actually kind of braids together and brings together all of these movements and these histories that we felt like after 25 years, of being beaten back by Trumpism and fucking Biden, that like maybe it was lost, maybe it was gone, and the Obama hope was totally gone. Like there, and it's just like, there's something fucking here. Cheney died for this, baby. Like, this is where we're at. Like, this is the culmination of maybe some of the seeds that we were planting back then.
Yeah, I mean, and it just goes to show you that nothing is wasted in organizing. Anytime you're able to create a collective space where people could come together and recognize their power, and through coming together collectively, like planting a seed of hope, we don't know how that seed is going to grow. We don't know the version of Zohran that didn't have that experience in the Child Care Collective, right?
Yeah.
We don't need to know that version, because the version that did have that experience was on that stage on Tuesday and is going to be the mayor of New York, right?
And wants to, give people universal childcare.
He wants to give people universal childcare, absolutely. Yeah, and the thing is, like, this is what makes it a movement victory, right? You can't separate Zohran the individual from his experience building New York DSA. You can't separate Zohran the individual from his experience governing as a WFP endorsed assembly person, right? You can't. There's no way of doing that. And you can't separate him from the number of grassroots organizations that came up, and the folks from Cav Voice that were day one endorsers, right? Like you can't separate him from any of that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't separate him from the strategy to rank a slate of anti-Cuomo elected officials that was born out of the Working Families Party that Anna Maria Archila and Jasmine Gripper led. That strategy that said we could have a solidarity politics. And so we're going to bring together this multiracial slate of mayoral candidates that all believe they should get the top choice, but are agreeing not to throw shade at one another and to cast their aspersions at the disgraced former governor Andrew Cuomo, and to actually campaign with one another. Like we had WFP events where all of our slate will show up together, on issues that, because there was a lot of issues where there was deep alignment and there were meaningful differences. And then to have that moment when Brad Lander and Zohran Mamdani actually like cross-endorsed one another, you know, the highest ranking Jewish elected official in New York City and a Muslim mayoral candidate joining forces at a time where there's the backdrop of the genocide against Palestinian people in our name. That was powerful because at a time when right-wing forces were using the genocide of the Palestinian people as a wedge to break apart coalitions of working class people, this candidacy and campaign actually found a cause for solidarity where we came together.
Yep.
Like that is,
and I think what you said earlier, like his whole self, you know, and the other thing about his whole self is that he never actually led with being a Muslim democratic socialist. He really just led with the policies. Relentlessly focused on affordability was the line that he kept on saying, to the point where I see media saying, not even in quotation marks, relentlessly focused on affordability. So the relentlessly focused on affordability. And I actually, this is just one thing I think is interesting for me as someone who, like, you know, sees a lot of the ways that our political leaders are often tied to their personal identities and where they're from, and how we only like listen to people based on, like, you know, what their class background is and where they're from. Zohran Mamdani is like an upper middle class kid. Like, you know, like, and that was never a hindrance because of the work, the organizing that he did with taxi cab drivers, you know, again, with the organizing that he did and the work that he did while being in the assembly, the focus of his campaign, the ability to talk to working people, the ability to talk to immigrants. Like, he was, they tried, even the right, to sort of like, oh, he's, you know, his dad's a professor and his mom's a filmmaker, but like nothing ever stuck because the guy was so much of the real deal. And I do think that's interesting as a lesson to be like, you know, you can, if you're walking the walk, it's okay that maybe your like background isn't like, and then I work myself up from the bootstrap. Like, everyone wants the AOC, you know, bartender story, but it's not necessary to win something like this.
No, not at all. He has the receipts because he is authentically showing up as his true self, right?
Yeah.
And I think like everybody has an authentic story, right? And the lesson that I would give to, and I've given to other folks who are thinking about running for office, and we want more working class people to run for office. And I hope the Zohran effect is that more working class people decide to run for local office too. Don't skip and try to run for Congress. Like, run for local office, because that's where we need people to govern, and city council and school board and everything else. Is that you can and should run as yourself, because you have a shot at winning your campaign. You may not, but like, you almost certainly don't have a shot at winning somebody else's campaign. And so Zohran didn't hide any part of his biography. But the second lesson is listen to working people. So, you know, people talk about his social media presence, and it is really impressive. And he started off with videos where he was listening to folks in his district, listening to people who voted for Donald Trump, but also voted for AOC, voted for Donald Trump, but also, and like, when you listen to working people and you're interested in building trust and campaigning to get their support, then you're going to run a campaign that is relentlessly focused on the issues that they care about, right? And like, and it's so fascinating. After the victory, even mainstream Democrats are now running on affordability. To me, that's a good thing.
Well, you hear, you know, who is it? Abigail Spanberger, who just won, you know, her race in Virginia, right? She's now governor, and she's like, oh, we're gonna like we're gonna freeze the electrical, your electricity bills and all this, you know. And like, that was like, wait a minute, that just sounds like a Zohran thing, which is great. Like, please say more of that. I do want to play this because on the point of, you know, I think something that WFP has been doing, and by the way, we're speaking with Maurice Mitchell, National Director for the Working Families Party. one thing that WFP has been doing is convoking these mass calls about strategy and, how to resist in these really dark, fascistic, authoritarian times. And it has been a lifeline for a lot of people. And I also think we are like, we need more. We still need more. And I think that this victory really, I've been saying, I hope it inspires people to realize that they can carve out that time in their lives, in their weeks, to dedicate to something like WFP, like DSA, like a local race, like a local ballot measure. Look at what is possible when 90,000 volunteers, or even one, is able to make inroads. In a place like New York City. There's so much to talk about, but I did just want to play this part because I love this part of his speech where he basically really names that in order to stop fascism, we have to speak to, as you mentioned, sort of how much capitalism has completely destroyed people's lives and how much we need to speak a different politics that looks up and not to one another in terms of blame.
Together, we will usher in a generation of change. And if we embrace this brave new course, rather than fleeing from it, we can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Oh, so good. Turn the volume up. So, and this is, I think, the message that he keeps on saying. Look, we need an antidote to the fascism, because then the next Donald Trump, I mean, at that moment, I think everyone, I was at a watch party in LA, was like, oh, the next. And we're like, oh yeah, the next. And we know that there's been a next, because the number of billionaires, from Bill Ackman to Peter Thiel, that we've suddenly, to Larry Ellison, that we've suddenly realized exists and is nowhere else to put their billions of dollars than back into our political system, buying candidates. It's like you realize, oh shit, we are in whack-a-mole phase, and we have to cut them off at the source.
Absolutely. There is a group, mark my words, there's a literal group chat with every individual you just mentioned. They were losing their shit on Tuesday, by the way. And look, the empire strikes back.
Yeah.
Okay. So they are somewhere planning something in order to ensure that something like Tuesday never happens again.
Yep.
Which is why we have to continue to organize, which is why the governing project in New York is going to be so critical, right? And which is why, there's a fake praise that I think some folks in the status quo are attempting to shine on Zohran, where they're like, he's a once in a million talent. He's a snowflake, made in a lab political sensation, to suggest that this can happen anyplace else. And, he absolutely is a brilliant communicator and a brilliant talent. And look, we're winning elections with the same types of politics everywhere. It's happening everywhere. In Seattle, we had a number of really incredible victories, like the 2 candidates that we supported in Detroit City Council, who are running on the same policies and strategies and the same type of politics. They won. In Pennsylvania, we defeated, so Jeffrey Yass is the is basically Pennsylvania's version of Elon Musk, just like,
yes,
and his money was defeated. And we organized this huge working class field operation, more than 700 people who knocked on their neighbors' doors in order to turn people out, in order to make sure that the state Supreme Court wasn't taken over by fascists, right? And so, I mean, it's happening in so many places that this isn't a fluke, that underneath this, I think there's two things: that crisis of affordability, which is a crisis of dignity that working people are feeling. That's happening everywhere. And people are disgusted by, and this is a rebuke of Trump and MAGA. Like, people are fed up with it. They've had their fill. 9 months is enough. And there's a number of people, the people who aren't like cult-like Trump fanatics, right? There's a number of people who may have voted for Trump in November, or maybe they were so confused and they were conflicted, so they didn't vote at all, or they were fed up and they felt cynicism, so they didn't vote. In order to get the numbers that we got, a number of those people voted in our direction.
Yep.
Which gives me a lot of hope of organizing working people across difference. The establishment inside the Democratic Party, they were, going on and on and on about how they need to win back young men, and how they need to, win this demographic back, or win that, and then Zohran.
And look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I did want to, I do think it's important, Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill, like, they're important wins in Jersey and Virginia.
Yes.
But look at how they did with men between 18 and 29, plus 14, plus 10. That's not bad. But Mamdani plus 40.
40. Okay. And
40 points up. What's wrong with men? We have to cater to the men. We just need the Joe Rogan of the left.
Yes.
Maurice, that's all we need. Tell me. What is happening with men, actually?
Oh my God. Yeah, this idea that we need to coddle and babysit the men, and have a Joe Rogan of the left babysitter for the men. It's just how about men are facing the same problems of affordability as women and everybody else, and are dealing with the same crisis that everybody's dealing, which is fundamentally economic. And if you speak to that, they will come to you and believe in you if you claim you're willing to fight for them. And look, plus 10 is great, plus 14 is great, but the reason why I build the Working Families Party is that Democrats see that plus 40, and they're still scratching their heads and trying to figure out what they should do.
I mean, it's
because they're so troubled by the implications of what it would mean if their party actually chose to embody the politics that Zohran, the Working Families Party, and many other folks were able to organize in New York City.
Yes, this is really a move, bitch, get out the way moment for the Democrat, in my opinion.
Yes.
From the Democratic Socialists to say, you need to move out of the way because you don't know how to fight fascists with any message, with any vision, and with any plan, and certainly with no conviction. We, on the other hand, do. And you're right. There are so many other Zohrans. There are people who are speaking this loudly and clearly. They don't get spots on CNN. They don't get elevated by the party leaders. They don't get all the donors and the funders, but they are there. And so this breakthrough is really, it's not just a defeat, of course, of Trumpism and talking about being an immigrant leading a city built by immigrants and, that runs with immigrant working power, but also saying it's a defeat to your lazy ass establishment, your lazy, do nothing, phone it in, fucking sit back and wait establishment. A lot of people don't have time to wait. It's great to have your strategy to say, sit back and wait when you yourself are not in the crosshairs of authoritarianism right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, right? What everyday people see, right, is that there are two parties. For whatever reason, they decided to organize this democracy where there's a rigid two-party system. Okay. And there is this fascist party that most non-fascist people could see is crazy and fascist and racist and everything else. And it is an establishment party. It is funded by the establishment, by oligarchs and corporations. Cool. And it's funded by what? APAC and AI and crypto and pharma and the real estate lobby. And okay. And then they look at the alternative, right? Which is a establishment supported party. And their job isn't fascism, but their job is the status quo. And who wakes up every day wanting the status quo? And it turns out that they're also backed by APAC, AI, crypto, pharma, the real estate lobby. And at this point, everyday people are saying enough is enough. And we're not going to...
We see you. We have eyes.
Yeah.
And we see you.
And we're not going to believe in the fairy tale that one day you're going to decide to believe us and support us in this big tent and follow the lead of the grassroots and not Mark Cuban, right?
Yep.
Like it's a party that includes AOC and Mark Cuban. That is, it just can't hold. And so what is happening now, I don't think there's it's the point of no return. Like the people are taking their politics in their own hands. And whatever the Democratic Party wants to do, it'll do, but the people are going to lead and are going to govern. And, you know, this is, for me, like one of the most exciting political moments I could possibly remember. And it's the reason why I wake up every day and build a Working Families Party is because, like, I believe that the only way we could actually have the things that we want is if we have a strategic break from the two-party system.
Yeah.
We build our own politics from the grassroots up, and we're seeing it happen. So it's breaking the crisis of imagination. If it can happen in New York, it can happen in any city. If it can happen in the seat of capitalism, the seat of Wall Street, it can happen anywhere.
Yes. I mean, it's so funny to watch people try to downplay, oh, New York is different. Shut up. You know what this is. You know what this means. You know how insanely game-changing this is. Before you go, I do want to ask you about this new initiative that is independent, and it hasn't really been announced very much, but it's independent from the Zohran campaign, but it's called Our Time. And it's an independent organizing initiative to basically turn the volunteers who were working on the Zohran campaign into organizers for the Zohran policy agenda, because it is going to be a long fight. And I know a bunch of, seasoned movement folks have been involved in it, and they're asking folks to sign up. What do you make of this initiative and just the idea of like moving campaigners into sort of everyday long-term organizers?
Well, organizing gets the goods. And if you want to go back to 2008, because that's one of the moments that people felt this type of hope, right? And Barack Obama built a legit movement. It was a movement candidacy. Barack Obama gets into office, and one of the things that he does is he basically, deputizes Rahm Emanuel to be his attack dog. One of the things that Rahm Emanuel and the Obama White House does is they seek to demobilize that movement that brought him to the White House, because movements are a little messy. If you're running a government, it could be a little annoying to kind of deal with all those activists and all of that energy. And so they demobilize their movement because they're like, all right, the movement got us to the White House. Yeah. And then they faced the fury of the Tea Party movement. And they did not have a movement. They did not have a movement because they demobilized their movement to push back against the Tea Party movement and to help Barack Obama deliver on his agenda. And we can never make a mistake like that ever again. We should learn from that mistake. And we should seek to figure out, as everyday people, how we show up in the governing experiment that will be Zohran Mamdani's mayoralty. And that's going to mean he's going to need the best and the brightest inside working with him, but also we're going to need to be as tenacious as we were when we campaigned in making sure that, because all those people, Bill Ackman, all of those folks, Mike Bloomberg, who just burnt his money on fire, right? If you don't think that they will be behind all of the efforts to slow or stop the policy agenda of Zohran Mamdani, then I got another thing coming to you. If you don't think that Andrew Cuomo is just going to lurk back into retirement if you don't think that the moneyed interests behind him aren't trying to figure out how to write the story about Zohran Mamdani's failure in governance, I have another thing coming to you. The thing that could prevent that, the thing that will, is building an organizing movement to make sure that happens. Organizing gets the goods. Organizing is part of the story. People talk about the communications and the social media and TikTok, and all that's true. But the heart of this campaign has been the organizing. And so it's exciting to know that there's people who are going to be involved in making that happen. That is essential to the governing promise actually being realized.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about also who's going to be in the transition team. Zohran's also, they're taking applications. If you've got specific skills, you can apply. But let me let you go now. Maurice Mitchell of Working Families Party, thank you so much for joining me on a hopeful show. And how can people get involved with WFP?
Okay, great. So people should find us at workingfamilies.org. People could find us at Working Families at all of the platforms that all of the fascist overlords control. They could find me at Maurice WFP at all those platforms. If they want, we just launched, we're really exciting. We and a bunch of other folks launched the Willing to Fight pledge and the Willing to Fight work. We're talking about a positive agenda of affordability across the country. You can go to willingtofight.org to sign that pledge. And also my DMs are open. I'm pretty accessible. If you have any questions about joining the WFP, starting one of our wolf packs, which is a way for people to just individually start building with us, I'm more than happy to lead you to somebody who would love to talk to you. This is our moment. So if you're listening, this is a time to get activated. And anybody that's interested, this is a time to join the Working Families Party.
I mean, remember the Working Families Party has been, the cradle where so many of these politicians got their start running on their platforms, like you mentioned. And I'm so excited for all the Zohrans that are already, being sworn into and last time you were on, you reminded us that Tish James, someone else who has been very unrelenting when it comes to Donald Trump's agenda, despite all of the attacks, was a WFP endorsed candidate.
That's right. A WFP only endorsed candidate, which makes James' story even more powerful. Because look, the Democratic Party, they do not take kindly to independent fighters. Right? Tish James is the real deal. Tish James is not an establishment politician by any measure. And the only way that she was able to get entry into politics was because she ran against the Democrat and won in Brooklyn City Council to be a WFP only sitting city council person, which was historic. And then, once we mollywop them, you can't beat them, join them. They begrudgingly embraced her and then more enthusiastically embraced her. And now she's the sitting attorney general of New York. And then she took on Donald Trump. Don't just think any attorney general was going to do that. It takes a Working Families Party attorney general who's willing to do that. And then I was in Virginia when she had to appear in court. And I can't tell you how proud I was when she came out dignified and she had that people's movement fight in her. And she was like, let's go. And there was a whole set of people there who were cheering her on. That only comes if you create the pathways for people to be able to run. It's never going to happen because our country's politics are designed to block people like that from ever getting an opportunity to even run for school board.
Yes.
So that's why we need to support organizations like the Working Families Party that build this infrastructure. If we want those things, we have to build the organization and infrastructure to make it happen. It doesn't happen just by willing it. We have to organize it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do feel for all the third party talk that of course we will have again and again, and because we want it, we need it, and we deserve it. I feel like WFP is, for me, a place to start, because it happens at the local level. It happens piece by piece. It doesn't happen from the top down. It doesn't happen from the celebrity. Nobody knew who Zohran Mamdani was a year ago. Nobody. And yet you guys know how to pick them, and they know how to pick you. So Thank you, Maurice. You're wonderful. Everybody get involved and yes, follow up workingfamilies.org.
It's good to be with you.
Take care. We're going to get into some of the backlash, of course, to not just the Zohran Mamdani win, but the the sweep, the flush, all that. So stick around. I'm going to read a couple comments and then we'll jump into it. Thank you, Brad League, for your super sticker. Thank you, Vitingale member. Thank you for your excellent coverage. Keep up the good work. Free Palestine. Trans rights are human rights. And Rachel Atwood, did Sliwa run his GOP and Save the Animals party? I don't know. Is there a Save the Animals party? I love ballots because sometimes you're just like, there's just like one line. It's like Cheryl running on the Bedazzle party. And you're like, who the fuck? Okay. There's like 2 votes for Cheryl. Random. Now the Zen says the Dem party is banking on screwing up a post-Trump political world. Harris and Buttigieg are working hard to mess it up. Here's what I think we need to talk about today is Nancy Pelosi has decided not to seek re-election. That is right. She has said she is resigning at the end of her term in January 2027. And I'm going to just go out on a limb and give this one again to Zohran Mamdani. Look, Nancy Pelosi should have done this 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Nancy Pelosi was not the person for the job under Trump. I don't care how many little, ironic little claps she made. But Nancy Pelosi also can read the room to a certain degree and knows that at a time when the energy is behind candidates like Zohran, candidates who are like, you know what? I do think that you shouldn't be in Congress and trading stocks. That just seems like a conflict of interest. She's like, I've got a lot of money and I need to keep it safe. Okay. So, and the economy is not doing very well. So I'm going to just get my little place in the Caymans and, continue my teeth have to be dry. And I'm going to continue living in Pacific Heights for Specific Whites. That's a neighborhood in San Francisco. But they've got it. You know what? Ice cream will I'll probably be dead by the time ice cream goes away because of climate change. But I think ice cream might actually be okay. The point is, don't come at me, vegans. The point is she knows when to get out late, very late, but she can see the writing on the wall very late, but she sees it. So I think this is a huge week. Okay. Death of war criminal Dick Cheney. A victory, not just of Zohran Mamdani, huge victory for New York City, but also across the country, right? And the fact that Abigail Spanberger and Mickey Wallace are younger, right? Like Mickey Sherrill, whatever, are younger. I think that's important, right? Like Nancy Pelosi is, she knows she doesn't want to die in office because what if she's not in the right Hermes? What if she's not wearing the right Manolos for the occasion? She doesn't want to, if there's another, there are many, but if there is another highly publicized, BLM moment, she can't kneel. She can't kneel in a kente cloth no more. She's got to go. So, this is, it's interesting. I was watching an interview with Saikat Chakrabarti, who used to work with AOC, and I believe was also involved with, is it the Sunrise Movement? He was running against her, now no longer. So hopefully we can get him on the show and talk about it. But that's it's also an interesting moment for San Francisco. But now I'm talking like Pelosi. Because Prop 50 passed, right? And San Francisco, despite what all of the billionaires and some of the billionaires who live there, some of them who successfully called the National Guard off of SF because they were like, it's fine, we got it. We mostly hype everything up and overblow it. And there's too much traffic to have ICE and, or there's too much traffic to have the National Guard here. San Francisco is also full of a lot of lefties, progressives, crunchy liberals, hippies. Let's go. Okay. So that seat it's going to be really interesting what happens with Pelosi's seat. But I think we have to mention that even if she wanted to announce her retirement, even if she knew she was retiring, guys, what does it say that she said it 2 days after Zohran Mamdani? She could have waited a week. She could have waited 10 days, 2 weeks. You know, she could have waited till January. She could have held out. She could have Bidened it. I'm staying in the race, even though I can't find my glasses or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, she did it this week. It's a little bit of a like, you know, she's doing a little bit of the like resting the keys from grandpa moment with your boy Chuck Schumer. That's what I'm reading this as. That's what I choose to read it as, but who knows? Maybe there's something, you know, about her stock portfolio that if she can't make a certain investment if she's still currently running for office. So who knows what her financial advisor is telling her about, you know, resigning at this point versus another point. I would not put it past her to do something like that. So all to say that is very real. I want to just do a little bit of a roundup before we go to the right freaking out about this. Obviously, Prop 50 passed, an overwhelming majority. I think it was something like 60%. Let's see. See if I'm wrong about this. 64 to 36. Thank you. And that was huge. You got New Jersey Democratic Governor Mickey Sherrill. You've got Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger. You've got Mississippi. Mississippi breaking a Republican supermajority in their house is incredible. Their state legislature is incredible. Maine defeated attempts to limit absentee voting. Also, they passed red flag gun laws. Good for them. People will be safer because of it. Colorado got universal school lunches. How? By implementing a wealth tax. So it can be done. Minnesota was doing it under walls. And now you've got Colorado doing it. Now, obviously, New York. So these are really important steps. You know, I was at a watch party for Zohran and with DSA and Working Families Party. And, you know, we were excited about Prop 50 passing and everything else. But, you know, no one loves Gavin. No one loves Gavin. He's doing the work, but he could do far better, and so could we all. But you know, at least he's trying. This is what we need to carrot and stick this man, you know, for as long as we can, before he realizes he ain't never going to be president. So I think that's really important. You know, the one thing that I want to bring up here, I've been sitting on this clip of Emma Vigeland on MSNBC, because it really annoyed me how she got sort of clobbered on by a bunch of centrists on this program on the weekends. I was on this show like 10 days ago. I was on the show like a month ago, but they had me on for like a minute. And I tried to get in some jokes about Laura Loomer, and then I got out of there. They didn't have me on for very long, but they had Emma on, and they had this conversation about like, if the left's so great, how come they haven't had any political victories, which is very fun. And this is a longer conversation, so I just want to take you through a little bit.
I wanted to get your thoughts on the Democratic Party here and whether or not what this upcoming Tuesday means for them. Ezra Klein recently wrote for the New York Times that over the past 15 years, the Democratic Party has made room on its left and closed down on its right. For all the talk of what the Democratic Party should learn from Bernie Sanders and Zohran Mamdani, there should be at least as much talk of what they should learn from Manchin or Golden or Marie Perez or Sarah McBride. The party should be seeking more, not less, internal disagreement. Do you agree with that stance?
No. I mean, I don't know what reality Ezra Klein is living in, that the fact that the Democratic Party has tacked to its left, in what universe?
Yeah.
Absolutely, in what universe? I mean, Ezra Klein, the man who is intellectually incapable of understanding power through an economic lens, intellectually incapable of talking about how corporate super PACs have everything to do with corporate do-nothing, centrist, status quo Democrats that fundamentally are against things like universal health care because it's not good for their donors. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, you gotta be nice to the right. We've made so much room on the left. Where? You tanked Bernie's candidacy twice. A guy who was not even a Democrat, was an independent. Independence, the mythical independence that centrists like Ezra Klein love to squawk about. Oh, the independents. What about the independents? What about the independents? Dude, Bernie was an independent. I love independence. I absolutely agree with that because Democrats' brand is trash. There's a little bit more. There's a lot more of this, but let's listen, Emma.
The coalescing around Joe Biden in the 2020 primary, the besmirching of Bernie Sanders supporters, the eschewing of that movement in 2016, and even in this current moment with Zohran Mamdani, who has been a shot in the arm for the Democratic Party, you still have Chuck Schumer refusing to endorse him, and Hakeem Jeffries' endorsement is lukewarm at best. There is a fight right now within the Democratic Party, and Ezra Klein is representing a floundering corporatist centrist flank that is increasingly irrelevant in the party, and he's trying to carry water for them in the Times. I mean, I think it's a lucrative thing to do, but it's not necessarily matching the reality.
I love it. I'm so excited.
First of all, red Ezra for filth. Just read it. Just bam. I love that. That was so good. And homie on the left is not capable of taking this in. There's a little bit more I want to talk about.
Disagree with that. I do, because I could not disagree more. The point Ezra's trying to make is that it takes two wings to fly. That he's trying to say Democrats need to build a Big Ten. And he's not saying you got to choose between Zohran Mamdani and Bernie Sanders and the centrist wing. He's saying Democrats need to compete more.
Oh, but you do. You do actually, because that's what a friggin' primary is. That's what democracy actually looks like. You should be choosing between these wings. And guess what? Sometimes the left wing wins out. Now, the difference is that the left consistently and perpetually and constantly is told that they have to vote blue no matter who, hold their nose and vote, and they do, right? We know that voters voted for Hillary Clinton when they wanted Bernie Sanders, right? Voters, more so than, what was it? What was the stat? Than voters who wanted Hillary Clinton in 2008 voted for Barack Obama? No, they went to McCain. I mean, what does that tell you about the Democratic Party? Y'all are way closer. Centrists like Hillary Clinton are way closer to McCain, than Barack Obama. And so, it's always been that way. What was Biden's victory about? It was about specifically grassroots organizations from Sunrise to Justice Democrats were coalescing. Former Bernie movement folks were coalescing to say, we will vote for you. And on the streets, we know that the Black Lives Matter movement led to the election of Joe Biden, a movement that he completely rejected, he completely ignored, and he did nothing to deliver for criminal justice reform, police reform, or broadly for any kind of accountability. That was the left doing all that it could to throw down with your so-called right flank. And we've gotten very, very, very little in return. Okay? So the entire premise is bullshit.
More places. You raised a stat earlier that I think is the key one. Why, when Donald Trump's numbers are plummeting among independent voters, he's got 48% strong disapproval. How come the Democratic Party's approval rating is lower as a brand
because
than
of the
the
muddled message that I was just trying to elucidate?
So you believe it's because they're not far left enough?
No, I believe that there needs to be a different approach to politics here. Not building a tent and saying we don't necessarily stand for anything, including Ezra advocating for saying that we should run anti-abortion Democrats in red states. So let's throw trans people under the bus. Let's throw women under the bus. Let's just do anything except
Here's what I need everyone to understand. You cannot be part of a coalition if part of the rules of the coalition are that you and your full humanity and your full rights we're not going to fight for. That is antithetical to democratic, to movement, to political coalition building. That's why you build coalition. Another word for Big Tent is coalition, right? If it's truly a coalition, then you don't leave people behind like that. And size matters, meaning you can't, motherfuckers are out here going like, well, what about, the billionaire class? You can't leave them behind. Okay, but there's like 3 of them and there's 3 million of us, just as an example. So who am I going to respond to? Like, you got the biggest purse. I understand that. But if this is a coalition, then we should at least attempt to be democratic and respond to the majority of people. It's kind of how democracy works, right? And so this whole like billionaire tiers, billionaire fragility, corporate fragility is so tiresome and it's so ridiculous. And this is exactly what Emma, I think, is trying to say here. And it's amazing how the left is constantly asked, come into our coalition, you pieces of slimy shit. I'm going to do nothing for you. Please vote for me and I will do absolutely nothing for you, right? And then on the other side, I'm trying to see it from billionaires' perspectives. I'm like, yeah, man, I get it. You made it in capitalism. You got the golden ticket. The rest of us are, sleeping head to foot in a bed with our grandparents and, out here. We live in feudalism. I'm glad you got the golden ticket. Okay. Can you share some of the candy? Because guess what? Your world will be a lot better if everyone gets a lollipop. Does that make sense to you? Your world will improve. At least you won't have to see the unsightly, unhoused Oompa Loompas. I'm going to crush this analogy into the ground.
Orienting territory, though?
No,
I think he's talking about being practical.
Yes, and trying to expand the map. That's what needs to happen here. Is if Democrats are how do you expand the map? Is you win in Ohio and you win in Pennsylvania and you win in West Virginia. As much as Democrats hate Joe Manchin, he was the only Democrat who could win statewide office.
I'm sorry, but Joe Manchin helped kill the child tax credit, which is the reason the Democrats are lagging behind in affordability right now.
But would it have been better if there were a Republican in that seat?
If the Democrats.
First of all, I do think it would have been better if there was a Republican in that seat. The lesson of Joe Manchin is no more Joe Manchins. The lesson of Joe Manchin is these centrist Dems will be the Democratic Party's undoing. Okay? The lesson from Joe Manchin or Josh Gottheimer and the centrists who, when Joe Biden was trying to push forward his agenda, his very not radical, not socialist, not communist, yes, a little bit of, a child tax credit. Yeah, okay, some money for home care workers. That Joe Manchin and the centrists killed it. Who stood by him? The progressives. So my only critique on Emma on this is like child tax credit starts to get somehow wonky. People are like, what? Child poverty? Ew, we're on television, right? Just say Joe Biden. Say Joe Manchin undid the Biden presidency. Joe Manchin and Biden's naivete were the entire reason that Biden abandoned his own Build Back Better agenda. And had he been able to deliver on the Build Back Better agenda, a Democrat would be in office right now. That's it. And look, Joe Manchin can suck a million dicks. I bet with an actual Build Back Better agenda, perhaps they could have picked off another senator. Maybe not, but I'm just saying, like, what good was it? It's almost worse to have a Democrat not fall in line. Big tent, motherfucker. Big tent couldn't go along with anything. This is what I'm saying. It's like, the entire progressive wing was like, okay, remember the whole Build Back Better gambit? We'll break apart these 2 bills. We'll pass one in the House. We'll pass one in the Senate. We'll separate it. We trust the president to make sure they all get passed together. I'm forgetting the details, but the point is they were deceived when they went along with the centrists. They went along with Joe. They listened to their president. So I don't know what the lesson is other than, hey, if you're Joe Manchin, Good for you. Like, I think the lesson is be Joe Manchin. Like, stop being less Joe Manchin. Hey, the real lesson of Senator Joe Manchin is you should have been Joe Manchin. That's the lesson from Joe Manchin. You should have been Joe Manchin. This just bothered me so much.
Want to orient themselves behind a working class coalition and use that as the base. That is how you build a durable coalition, not the one that has lost to Trump multiple times.
But if you look at the track record of like Sunrise and Justice Dems and these other, more populist progressive groups,
the base wasn't there. Now the base is there. The base is currently behind it.
They have not gained a single seat
because of the institutional pushback from the Democratic.
I mean, that's not true. Exactly. It's been and I think there has been massive institutional pushback, but like they haven't lost either. How they lost is through AIPAC money. Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, AIPAC. Let's talk about AIPAC. Okay. That's a little bit relevant here. They lost seats because of the massive onslaught of, blood money. But the real thing is you're like, you going to blame Sunrise and Justice Democrats? Sunrise and Justice Democrats are the reason anyone listens to a Democrat ever. Like, Sunrise and Justice Democrats, number one, got Joe Biden elected. Remember, they were riding for Bernie. When Bernie lost in the primary, they had meetings with Biden to shape his agenda. And this was part of this dance of like, let's give tit for tat. Let's do an arrangement. There were these meetings. Now, I think hindsight, there was not enough movement pressure. Hindsight, I don't think those organizations are perfect. I don't think they did everything right. And I think we maybe overestimated their power, but to say that like they've done nothing or they have no, candidates is bullshit. And I will be highlighting those candidates in the future, very, very, very soon. So I just wanted that really pissed me off, and we can leave it where it is. The main thing is this, guys. The right is melting down. And what's crazy to me about the right melting down over these resounding Democratic wins and Democratic socialist wins is that I didn't know that the right was doing elections anymore, because the last I checked, the right wanted to and is disenfranchising Americans, trying to pass restrictive voter ID laws, trying to undo the Voting Rights Act after successfully gutting it, now trying to completely undo it vis-a-vis the Supreme Court, doing obviously massive voter purges, through claiming that undocumented people are voting when they are not, and then gerrymandering the shit out of the country, illegally gerrymandering. I mean, gerrymandering is illegal. I mean, it's illegal generally, right? But going even farther and redrawing maps on an off year, like the state of Texas is doing, to which Gavin Newsom in California's response was, hello, Prop 50. Here will be 5 new Democratic seats, and gerrymandering in the face of gerrymandering. What I'm trying to say is the Republican strategy has not been to vote. The Republican strategy has been to cheat. The Republican strategy is minority rule. That's what they love. They love the Electoral College, which is unrepresentative and a vestige of the past and ridiculous and ultimately, born of structural racism. The Electoral College, the popular vote, is by and large goes Democrat. Not in this last case. But that's what I'm trying to say is like, when are they trying to play fair? And yet they are freaking out, including Donald Trump. Trump tweeting, Trump wasn't on the ballot and shut down were the 2 reasons the Republicans lost elections tonight. Now, for this whole month, many weeks, 7 weeks, the Congress has been out. Mike Johnson has been blaming Democrats, calling it the Schumer shutdown when they are actually the majority in both chambers. They could reconvene at any moment. They could talk about it. We could talk about the ACA subsidies. My premiums went up. Anyone else? there goes any savings I had. I was like, oh, I'm going to pull back here. Oh, there we go. So now you hear from the head honcho, and head honcho is admitting, oh yeah, the shutdown. And apparently in private, Donald Trump's also admitting and telling Republicans that the shutdown is hurting them, that everyone knows it's their shutdown. Everyone knows that now that a bunch of flights are going to be cut because there are no FAA controllers to make sure that we can fly safe. Oh my God, there was a UPS plane that, crashed and killed 7 people the other day. That's all on Republicans. So they know that. They know that, and it's coming home. And of course, he's like, Trump wasn't on the ballot. Everyone changed their name to Trump. Okay, it could be Trump Chitterelli. Just middle name Trump. Everyone put their middle name Trump, and they will win. Or he should just run. He should just put his name in he should run. Trump on the bronzer line, whatever it is, whatever party. Just put his name on the ballot somewhere. He swears he's going to win. And again, this is not just the party. You sort of like, you're like, why would he say that? That's interesting. I guess Trump has to be on the ballot, and he is planning to run in 2028. I mean, it's going to be, I got to say, as much as I want him to be a joke so bad, but I do think a 84-year-old man running, 83-year-old man running for a third time illegally, there is something sort of disgustingly perverted, and a perverted fascination I have about that I'm like, I kind of want to see that, but also that's unconstitutional, and no, he cannot. But we know, Steve Bannon said it last week, they're trying to run Trump again. And it's like, okay, well, you mean Barron? Do you mean, no, they're trying to run him again. So that's a little bit of a hat tip to also run me forever. JD Vance had a take, which, again, everyone on the right, all their little disgusting influencers have their own take. Why did we lose? Oh my God. Some are being very honest about, Ted Cruz said, look, they wiped the floor with us. Mike Johnson, however, is still in denial.
There's no surprises. What happened last night was blue states and blue cities voted blue. We all saw that coming. And no one should read too much into last night's election results. Off-year elections are not indicative of what's to come. That's what history teaches us.
No, that is not what history teaches us. I mean, the blue states, blue. No. Everyone moved to the left. Everyone moved or to the center. Glenn Youngkin was the Republican governor of Virginia before. Now it's a Democrat. That's huge. That is huge. That's a flip, right? There's a lot of flips here. So he's trying to downplay it, of course. My favorite, though, is this Representative Lisa McClain, who's on CNN. And guys, wait till you get a load of this excuse of why the Republicans fumbled this so bad.
Trump told Republicans earlier this morning, according to a source talking to CNN, that Republicans are getting killed politically on the shutdown. And if you look at what happened last night, it is hard to say that there is anything in the election results. And I'm looking at not just like, I get it, New Jersey's a Democratic state, but looking at Republican counties, looking at Republican sheriffs that lost their jobs. It's hard to see anything last night that was an endorsement of what the Republican Party is doing right now.
Yeah, well, let me give you the other side of that of that story. Is voter turnout from Republicans was not high, not high at all. But I think part of that reason is because Republicans, for the most part, are happy with what's happening. The border's closed. Crime is down. Inflation under Biden used to be 9%. It's now down to 3%. Interest rates are down. Mortgages down. Let me just finish.
I know that what I just said was a lie. Interest rates are not down. Mortgages are not down. Inflation is absolutely not down. We just hit today jobs numbers that the job losses are the highest they've been in 22 years. All right. Job cuts totaled 183% surge from November in October, a surge from September, and 175% higher than the same month a year ago. Oh, what happened to Nutlick saying that all the manufacturing jobs are going to come back? You know, we just have to learn how to build iPhones with our hands. Yeah, man. It turns out when you just say stuff, it doesn't happen. You can't just speak things into existence, but I'm glad you're getting rich. I'm glad you're personally getting rich. People are staying home because they're happy. They don't need to vote Republican because they have everything they want. I love it. I love how stupid they think we are and their voters are. I mean, really, it is for their voters. But obviously that was on national news, so it is for a general audience. Like, I know you're like, again, there is this space between full-blown fascism, because we have it already, full-blown control of all voting systems, clamp down on mail-in, on absentee, on early, full, like real corruption, real ballot stuffing situations, real can we turn the pores into fuel, and where we are right now. And in here, in the next, I would say 10 years, is this time to fight. In the next month, in the next 2 years, in the next, this, and they know it. They know, they're like, we can't just, push a button and make the poor people disappear, but me still get my, delivery or whatever. Like, still find good help. Who would stay home if they're happy? Why would Republicans? That's called demobilized, honey. Because if they're going to allow a Democrat to win or risk a Democrat winning, that wouldn't continue their supposed contentment with the Republican, track record. If they were no, that's not how anything works. I love it. I love that explanation. It is so amazing to me. There's other explanations, however. JD Vance, everyone, get your douche hats on. I think it's idiotic. I love a vice president who starts with, I think it's idiotic. It's just so, the energy is just so, have you even said thank you? Have you even said thank you? I think it's idiotic to overreact to a couple of elections in blue states, but a few thoughts. Scott Presler, TPUSA, Turning Point, and a bunch of others have been working hard to register voters. I said in 2022, and I've said it repeatedly since, our coalition is lower propensity, and that means we have to do better at turning out voters than we have in the past. What? Since when were Republicans lower propensity? I'm sorry, I am not at all a political genius, but everyone knows that Republican voters are more reliable voters, okay? For some reason, they go out and they vote. Maybe because they've always had the right. It's old people. It's the old Fox News viewers. And it's the reason that Democrats are like, well, we got to get the old whites. We got to pick apart some of the old whites. Instead of trying to mobilize the new young browns, they want the old whites. You know what I'm saying? So it's the way it's always been. So yes, Turning Point has done in the past some voter registration, but I believe last year it was very clear that there was embezzlement and misspending of the money that TPUSA got. Like they weren't actually trying to turn out the vote. It's like, yeah, man, they meme. They don't knock doors. They meme. Gross. To knock a door. What if a girl answers? You know what I mean? Like, ew. So like the idea that they're trying to GOTV is just so funny and weird and laughable to me. But okay. 2, we need to focus on the home front. The president has done a lot that has already paid off in lower interest rates and lower inflation. Bullshit. But we inherited a disaster from Joe Biden. Yes. Okay. Every accusation is a confession. Biden inherited a disaster from Trump. And Rome wasn't built in a day. No, but it's crumbling in 9 months. We're going to keep on working to make a decent life affordable in this country. And that's the metric by which we'll ultimately be judged in 2026 and beyond. Ooh, a little bit of ding, ding, ding there, JD. You kind of got it right in that one moment. It is about affordability. So even JD Vance, he would not be saying this had not just these key races gone Democrat, but that a Democratic socialist relentlessly focused on affordability did not win by 10 points and get over 50% of the vote in New York. A decent life affordable in this country. All we got to do is kick out all of the people who harvest our food, who cook our food, who raise our children, who do work that nobody else wants to do. We got to once we've ethnically cleansed everybody, then you will have more money. Once all of the things that I think illegals are doing, which they're not, once they stop mooching off the system, which they're not, then we'll have more for you. Then we'll turn the SNAP benefits back on. I swear to God, you guys, you think it's good now? Like, you think it's good now? The sort of spiraling out, the MAGA tears we're drinking now? Wait till it's Thanksgiving and people don't have enough food on their table and their fucking flights are canceled because of this government shutdown and Russell vote and all the psychos that are running. I'm not saying it's good. It's going to be bad, but the backlash is going to be strong. So however you can, local candidates, local organizing, maybe you will have the most interesting Thanksgiving conversation with your Republican family member ever this November. We could take bets. I don't fuck with Polymarket, but I think Republicans end the shutdown before Thanksgiving. That is my feeling. Cuz oh my God, imagine what Thanksgiving will look like. And yes, please, I have a monthly donation to a food bank that I love. So please either do that. Apparently, I've read that food banks actually prefer money rather than goods, so that they can spend it the way they need to, whether that's what kind of food or personnel or whatever it is. So please donate as well if you can to your local food banks, because there are lines. It is awful. These are also federal workers. Number 3 is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later, maybe next week. The infighting is stupid. I care about my fellow citizens, particularly young Americans, being able to afford a decent life. I care about immigration and our sovereignty. Ugh. What country, like, what first world, for lack of a better term, country is talking about their sovereignty? Who's taking away your sovereignty, my guy? Like, what this is not Cuban independence. Like, what are you talking about? Your sovereignty? No, man, this is some racist great replacement theory, dog whistle, racist ass shit. I care about our establishing peace overseas so our resources can be focused at home. If you care about those things too, let's work together. Oh, you're gonna do none of those things. That's so adorable. Keep tweeting. Just keep tweeting through it. Just keep tweeting through it. That's all I have to say. Keep tweeting through it. You'll get there. Lastly, the woman who maybe represents some of the Republican infighting for good reasons, for bad reasons, someone who I don't see as hope, but who's been, singing a different tune lately. Oh no, this is Marjorie Greene here. If you don't understand yesterday's election results, here are the groups of Republicans have disenfranchised. Oh, she's going to talk about disenfranchisement from the Republican Party. Black Americans, people with the same last name, Latino Americans. No, America first, America only. What? Is this a new classification of your racism? America first, America only? We've been disenfranchised. We're the America first, America only. Wink, wink, Israel. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. You can say it. We all say it. Number 2, Maha. I don't understand what Maha hasn't gotten. Although, if you ask them, they'll be like, we haven't burned every vaccine. When do the burn pits for vaccines start? I'm not sure how Maha has been disenfranchised. 3, Americans suffering from the high cost of living, rising food and energy prices, leaving them out to dry with no plan on our skyrocketing health insurance premiums. Uh-oh. I think she uttered this the other day on The View. Marjorie Greene knows that the whole shutdown, the Democrats' holdout, is for these insane premiums on the ACA that are going through the roof that the government could easily maintain to give us some reprieve. It is after all a government program, and they can do that. Instead, they are throwing us to the health insurance wolves. So she gets it a little bit. You can't meme. This is the best part. You can't meme and throw red meat rants and interviews and get your way out of this. These people are serious and only support action. They are done with words, and I completely agree with them. Says the memestress herself. Says Miss Red Bait rants. No, she is changing her tune. And according to AOC, it's because Donald Trump didn't support a run for her for the Senate, which I love that tea. And that's the reason that she's so pissed off and has sort of turned. But, it may not be a turn for the better, even though she's saying some good things in there. And you stay tuned. I'm cooking up a big piece about the split in the right, specifically over Israel. You guys, before we go, last story. I want everyone to know. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your cat. Woke is back, baby. Okay? She, her, she, there, he, they. It is on. We're doing every single pronoun. As comedian, my friend, comedian Janesh Ronlund said, we're launching 40 new pronouns. Zohran has emboldened us. We're changing it up. We're back, baby. We are so up on woke. And of course, everyone who says that, we all know we're being totally facetious. But I love the idea that it's back because it is. It is. All right. We got a socialist Muslim mayor in the biggest city in the country. Woke is so back. And guess what? His transition team is all woke. I mean, women. All female transition team as he prepares for New York mayoralty. Now, I don't know all of these women and I cannot necessarily vouch for their politics, but we have Lina Khan. And when you come out swinging with Lina Khan, former FTC chair, slayer of Google and Amazon, preventer of corporate mergers like Kroger's and Albertson, a student of antitrust law, you're saying a lot about how you think of the billionaire class, their ability to amass more and more and more wealth, to evade more and more taxes, to make services worse and worse for all of us, right? When you come out swinging with Lina Khan, you mean business. You mean so much business. And I love that for us. And I say us as someone who does not live in New York City. But this is very exciting, all female, and he is also hiring. So transition 2025, I think. I think that's it. Is there multiple people? You can apply if you feel like you've got the skills. Maybe there are people who have the skills here. So I wanted to play this little moment from Lina Khan because I friggin' love this from her. And I love this for her.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you all. I want to start off by just congratulating our mayor-elect Mamdani on an incredible victory and a just remarkable campaign this last year. I think what we saw last night was New Yorkers not just electing a new mayor, but clearly rejecting a politics where outsized corporate power and money too often end up dictating our politics, and a clear mandate for change where New Yorkers can get ahead and where all workers and small businesses can thrive, not just get by. I think what we saw through the campaign was an operation that showed extraordinary discipline, rigor, talent, and I know that Zohran has the vision and courage to make sure that we can actually deliver. It's such an honor to get to be part of his transition team, and I'm so excited to work with the co-chairs to make sure that we are building an administration that can hit the ground running on day one and deliver for all New Yorkers. Thank you so much.
So I love that how much praise she gave to the campaign. And I also love that she says, you know, this is a place where businesses cannot just, you know, survive, but thrive. And I think that, you know, given where Zohran started in terms of hunger striking with taxi workers, taxi cab drivers, you know, who were being gouged by the city as they raised the price of that medallion and indebting, you know, thousands and thousands of people, causing them to take their own lives because of the kinds of debt that was imposed on them. This is very significant to have some, I mean, you can imagine, right? DoorDash, which relies and runs on the precarity of contract labor in terms of delivery drivers. Like, imagine someone like Lina Khan going after DoorDash, right? Or going after some of these companies that are thriving in New York City. And just like this, and again, Lina Khan is, I don't know her personally, but I don't know if she's a socialist. I don't think that she's a radical. I don't think she's a revolutionary. She studied antitrust law, effectively what is almost anti-capitalist, non-competitive behavior, right? You should not be able to have these practices. You should not have these monopolies. You should not be able to swindle consumers. There has to be a certain level of honesty in capitalism. There has to be accountability. There has to be competition for this economy to actually run. That is a very capitalistic framework, right? It's not the late stage 1% amassing billions and billions of dollars framework like they want to do. But, you know, if you had any dreams of starting your own business, right? That's not, I mean, shit, maybe it is me, but like, this is a very uneven playing field. It is very difficult in the United States to do something like that. I remember, you know, and I do think that the city of New York actually is an incredible place where, you know, you can run a bodega, right? Or you can like own a laundromat. Like there are, you know, smaller businesses because not everything is chain stores because there's so many people, right? There's so many people. So the ability for like a Target or a Walmart to completely obliterate local economies is a lot less in a dense city like New York. And so there's sort of a natural firewall built in when it comes to supporting local businesses, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. And that doesn't mean it hasn't happened, right? But I remember I used to work at a restaurant and one of the servers was like, you know, he moved to this country. I can't remember how long ago it was. But he was like, yeah, man, in Mexico, I had like my own business. Like I had my own business. I could run my business. Here I could buy a nice shirt, but like, I don't have the money to, or there's too many prohibitions for me to like run a business here. which I think it was a really interesting and astute comment, because after living abroad myself, I also noticed that. It's like, it seemed like there were way more family-run businesses abroad. And I think in the US, there are so many barriers to being like, we everyone loves to, squawk on about the small business owner. But like, where? Fewer and fewer and fewer small businesses truly in that spirit. If you are a capitalist, you should love Lina Khan. Remember when there was talk that maybe JD Vance liked Lina Khan? I don't know what kind of mouth nose sounds to make at you to tell you that was always a pipe dream. Oh, the faux populism is imploding and the real populism is rising. It is socialism or barbarism, people. That is the name of the game. That is the name of the show. That is the name of the hour and change that we've been here, almost 2 hours. I got to go get back to work on the piece that I'm cooking up for y'all. I'll be back tomorrow at 1 for the patrons, for the members on YouTube. So go for the paid subscribers on Substack, frannyfio.substack.com if Substack is your jam. Thank you to Paige Omek, Brent Godin, Andy Vasoyan, as always. Thank you to me. You're welcome, Francesca. And I will see you mañana or Tuesday, next Tuesday, if that is where you'll be. And until then, I'm going to go watch the speech again and cry. I had what an ugly cry. What an ugly cry of hope. Am I on my period? Yeah, I am. Let me read some super chats before I get out of here. I'm sorry. Dizzle McFizzle, here's my donation to fund Joe Manchin sucking a million dicks. I mean, it does cost money. It's like, how do you organize that? So I do appreciate that. Lou Dog 8385, thank you for your super sticker. J Cass 6882. When are you getting Pendejo Morgan on the Bituation Room? Oh, and do you remember to condemn hummus along with your vitamin C dose today? Oh my God. Remember when Piers was like, when I come on your podcast, you can ask me whatever you like. And I was like, oh God, no, don't come on my podcast. It would be so funny to have Piers Morgan on the podcast though. I feel like I'd have to get a studio. I think remotely, I feel like if I ever did a studio show, he could be one of my guests and I could just be like, why? Why are you the way that you are? And guess what? He still hasn't interviewed Trump. Trump hasn't fallen so far yet, but I told him, I was like, you're not interviewing Trump. He's like, I will. I got an invite to Mar-a-Lago. I was like, no, you're not. I know you're not, but we'll see. I just wanted to also shout out all the people over on Twitch, Onyx Squared. Thanks for resubscribing. And hello, lovely scientist, also subscribed 21 months strong. Appreciate y'all. And remember, until next time, fight the power, fuck the patriarchy, free Palestine, and don't just bitch about it, be about it now more than ever. I love y'all. Bye-bye.